Good morning. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Economy and Infrastructure Committee meeting of the 5th of February 2025. First of all, can I apologise to elected members, to members of the public and to members of the media who may be tuning in to watch the meeting online. We have had difficulties with IT in the council chamber this morning, and that is currently being addressed as we speak. So we've had to move to a completely online meeting. So apologies for the undoubted inconvenience that will have caused people. But without further ado, can we proceed now to the meeting? And can I first introduce again the top table. To my right, I have Councillor Jack Welsh, Vice Convener. I have Serge Marone, the Strategic Lead for Economy, Development and Planning. I have Stephen MacDonald, Economic Development Manager for Tourism, Culture and Place. I have Alison Seggie, Economic Development Manager for People, Partnership and Funding. And I have Claire Mailer, the Deputy Chief Executive. To my left, I have Adam Taylor from Committee Services. Democratic Services. And I'll now ask Adam to confirm any apologies received and to advise of members in attendance and online. Thanks.
Thanks, Convener. We've had apologies this morning from Councillor Carr, who has been substituted by Councillor Massey, and also from Councillor Frank Smith, substituted by Councillor Braun. Due to the technical difficulties we have, I think I'll just go down the list and confirm that all members are present. Convener and Vice Convener, I know you're here in the room, so I'll just pass by you. Councillor Anderson, can you confirm that you can hear us?
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you. Bailey Brock? Bailey Brock, can you confirm?
Yes, I'm here, thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Massey?
Here.
Councillor Donaldson?
Yeah, Councillor Massey's in this room and I'm here. Yeah, hi.
Councillor Duff?
Present.
Councillor Forbes?
Yes, good morning, I'm here.
Councillor Harvey?
I'm here.
Councillor Kogali?
Yes, I'm here.
Councillor Lang?
Present.
Councillor Robertson? Convener, I know that Councillor Robertson's been having technical issues this morning, so we'll keep trying to bring him in. Councillor Braun?
Yes, good morning, Adam. I'm here.
Councillor Stewart?
Here.
And finally, Councillor Watt?
Yeah, good morning.
Right. So that's all members counted for. Convener?
Okay, thank you, Adam. Can I ask councillors and officers to use the chat box as usual to attract my attention during the course of the meeting? Moving on to item 2 on the agenda, declarations of interest. Can I ask if there are any declarations of interest in respect of the business on the agenda today? A few moments for that. Do not appear to be any declarations of interest. Okay, moving on to item 3 on the agenda, minute. Can we agree the minute of the last meeting held on 21st October 2024?
Agreed.
Agreed.
Thank you, thank you. Now, before we proceed to the formal business of the meeting, with the committee's indulgence, I would like to make a public statement regarding the Enva fire that took place last month. It's a brief statement, but we want to make clear the council's views on the situation that we were facing back on the 14th of January. So, with the committee's indulgence, please bear with me. I would like to address the understandable concerns raised by many residents of Perth and Kinross regarding the fires at the waste management site on Shore Terrace, Perth, and their impact on the Friarton Road Bridge and local residents. The most recent fire in the early hours of 14 January was the third to happen on the site, with the previous fire in February 2023 resulting in the tragic death of a worker on the site. All of the incidents were related to lithium battery fires. On this most recent occasion, local residents again faced having to take action to prevent the risk of smoke getting into their properties, added to which local roads and the city centre became badly congested as a result of diverted traffic from Friarton Bridge, which had to be closed for 10 hours. This also caused significant disruption to school transport, leaving pupils, including some due to sit exams, stranded for a lengthy period. And of course, the bridge itself is an integral component of Scotland's road network, and its necessary closure will have caused widespread disruption to very many road users from across Scotland. In my view, this is an unacceptable situation which must be urgently addressed to find solutions which minimise any risks in the future. Perth and Kinross Council does not have a role in granting or reviewing the licence for waste management on the site, or for inspecting the fire safety arrangements on the site. Nor can we change or influence the use or disposal of lithium batteries, although the use, recycling and storage of these is currently under review at a national level. However, we do understand and share the concerns of our residents who are seeking reassurances about how fires at the site can be prevented in the future. And as representatives of the community, we are committed to advocating for the safety and well-being of our residents. To this end, we are inviting representatives of site operators, ENVA, and lead agencies, SEPA, the Health and Safety Executive, Transport Scotland, Scottish Fire and Rescue Service, and Police Scotland to meet with the leader of the council, local parliamentarians, council officers and myself as soon as possible to seek reassurances, to understand what actions can and will be taken to prevent such incidents from recurring, and to ensure effective collaboration across all agencies. We shall, of course, keep members of the public, this committee and ward councillors informed of the outcome of these discussions. And that's the end of that statement. I do want to just offer a brief opportunity for any elected members who may wish to make a quick comment, not ask any questions at this stage, but if anybody wishes to add anything at this point in time, please see it in the chat. Okay. Nothing coming through at the moment. It's fine. Okay, thank you for your indulgence, committee, and we'll now move on to the formal business of the meeting, starting with the outstanding business statement. But again, before we go on to discuss the content of that statement, I would like to thank Councillor Forbes for raising an issue with me last week with regard to conservation areas and work that was mandated by the committee in 2023. And can I ask Serge Maroon just to update the committee and Councillor Forbes as well, obviously, of the work that is going on in the background. Thanks, Serge.
Thank you, Convener. I've been asked to provide a brief update on conservation area appraisals. Under the Council Scheme for Administration, This committee exercises the strategic and policy functions of the Council, in addition to land use planning, including conservation matters. Conservation areas are areas of special architectural or historical interest, the character or appearance of which it is desirable to preserve or enhance. The planning authority is required to determine which parts of this area are of special architectural interest or historic interest, but from time to time it may designate these are conservation areas. The public will normally be consulted on any proposal to designate conservation areas or to change their boundaries. We have 35 designated conservation areas, and they're all displayed on the Council website through an interactive map. The Planning Authority shall give notice to Scottish ministers and Historic Environment Scotland of any variation or cancellation of such designation. A conservation area appraisal is a management tool which helps to identify the special interest or changing needs of an area. Appraisals also inform policy and assist development control. They provide an opportunity to involve communities in identifying the character of the area and help developers formulate development proposals. Planning authorities are encouraged to prepare appraisals for all their conservation areas in consultation with the local community. 22 appraisals have been carried out and are published on the Council website. 13 have not been appraised yet. A program of appraisals and review of existing appraisals is in place and is being delivered, even if the delivery has been slowed down due to staff changes. Submission of appraisals or reviews of appraisals to this committee will be decided on a case-by-case basis. For instance, when there will be a variation to the area designation, such as a boundary change. In any case, and to keep all members updated on appraisals, reviews of appraisals, regular elected members' briefing notes will be issued, and any question could be answered by the team. I hope this provided a useful update on the.
Thank you, Serge. And before we move on to the outstanding business statement itself, an opportunity for any questions on Serge's comments there. Again, nothing coming through. So thank you, Serge. Thank you for that update for the committee. Councillor Donaldson, you have a question?
Right, just kidding. Can you hear me okay?
Very clearly.
Right, good. Sarge, with the, I seem to recall I did up a list before, 17, 18 conservation area appraisals have been carried out, but most of them some time ago. How many are we hoping to progress with? And are there any particular areas chosen in the immediate future?
Thank you, Councillor Donaldson, for your question. Yes, we have 4 appraisals being undertaken at the moment. The first one is Peterfield, and it is likely to go to committee because we think there will be a change of boundary, and the idea will be to come to this committee in August for that Peterfield. That will be followed by McClure, Burnham, and Dunkeld in the future committee after August. We try obviously to accelerate with it the reviews to catch up with it, but that's the 4 in the pipeline at the moment.
Okay, and in the preparation, I don't think I need to declare an interest here, but are we working along with the Perth and Kinross Heritage Trust on this, or is this all being done internally within the council?
The appraisals are carried out usually in-house, with officers in the council, but obviously we will be liaising with Heritage Trust for any specific areas or advice or information.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you. And if there are no further questions, now moving on to the outstanding business statement itself. Can I ask if there are any questions on that statement? Once again, no questions coming through as yet. Can we note the can we now note the outstanding business statement and agree to remove the actions that are now complete?
Agreed.
Thank you.
Agreed.
Okay, thank you for that. And can I welcome Councillor Robertson to the meeting? We've managed to connect with Councillor Robertson. Well, for your ears, I just wanted to apologise for the earlier inconvenience of the meeting arrangements, which are being investigated as we speak. But welcome to the meeting.
Thank you, convener. I'm just in the terrible hiccup, but I'm glad to be joining you. I know that you've already discussed this, but the problems with the Fratton Bridge and the fire, it did cause gridlock nearly everywhere in Perth and the surrounding areas. And I was wondering if part of our investigations going forward, we can actually come up with a contingency plan for traffic in as much as when the Fratton Bridge is compromised. There has been problems there before, and we really need a travel plan to try and avoid the huge disruptions that it caused for very many people. The incident you mentioned. So I just wanted to mention that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Robertson. I think the other would like to make a brief comment.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Robertson. There was a meeting of senior officers last week to undertake a debrief of the whole incident, and one of the improvement actions identified within that debrief with colleagues from Police Scotland and our roads team was to put in place a bridge closure plan. So that will be developed through the local resilience partnership. So that is one of a number of actions in terms of the debrief. So just to reassure you of that.
That's very encouraging. I should have known you'd be on the case, but I just wanted to raise it anyway. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Councillor Lane.
I forgot that Claire Miller was there to give that information, so I was just going to comment on Councillor Robertson's question, because obviously it's very valid and it has to be a priority that, working with other agencies, we have a strategy to deal with an incident like that.
Yeah, thanks for that. Okay, moving on then on the agenda to item 5, which is the Tay Cities Prospectus for Regional Growth 2025 to 2035 and Perth and Kinross Economic Action Plan 2025 to 2030. Can I tell the committee that Serge Marone, Strategic Lead of Economy, Development and Planning, will introduce the report, and along with colleagues Stephen MacDonald and Alison Seggie, will deliver a slide-based presentation to the committee. Over to you, Serge.
Thank you, convener. I don't know if we can put the presentation online. Thank you. So that would be obviously the introduction to the report that's been distributed to the committee. But we want to move to the next slide, thanks. So the presentation will focus on providing some context to the report with the Tay Cities economic strategy and the Perth and Kinross Wellbeing Plan. We will also talk about the Tay Cities Prospectus for Regional Growth, detail the draft Perth and Kinross Economic Action Plan, and talk more about how we are working together in terms of engagement process and next steps. And as you said, I'm joined with Steve MacDonald and Alison Seggie, will be part of the presentation as well. Next slide, please. So in terms of the context, you maybe know that obviously we are part of the Tay Cities Regional Economic Partnership, and the partnership has approved a regional economic strategy, which is covering 20 years period, 2019-2039, And the vision on the strategy is really for the TCT to be one of the most productive knowledge-led economies, while ensuring that we become smarter, greener, and fairer. More importantly, it was also used as the basis to develop the TCT's deal, which is for the period 2019-2030, and that allowed the region to attract 300 million to support 3 region-wide programs, the Atlas Fund, and 23 projects. So that's the framework for us in terms of economic development. But what we did as well locally, we developed a Bath and Kinross economic wellbeing plan, and that was for the period 2020-2028. And really the purpose of that plan was really to try to capture and build on the regional opportunities for Bath and Kinross, but also it was also to help the economy recover from the impact of COVID-19. Next slide, please. Well, as you can understand, since 2019, a lot has happened in terms of events, new strategies, new policies, and new thinking have emerged. And that's led at regional level to try to see if we can review the economic strategy. And that was concluded by the development of a prospectus for regional growth for a 10-year period, 2025-2035. And the purpose of that prospectus was really to try to, as part of the review, it was felt that we needed really to focus on fewer and higher impact transformational opportunities for growth. And the prospectus was approved by the TCT's Joint Committee in December, and it will help, obviously, the region to attract external investments to support our local economy, but also to define the priority opportunity schemes and enablers for sustainable regional growth. Next slide, please. And these are the priority opportunity themes developed as part of the prospectus. So I think it's important that we take a bit of time to look at them. They are attached to the paper. This is an appendix, which is obviously providing a full prospectus for a more detailed review. 4 themes that we are talking about are clean growth for smarter and sustainable places, life science, health and agri-tech, tourism, culture, creative, digital and cyber and games economy. And enabling and supporting these themes are connectivity, digital and physical, and skills and talent. I think that's important to recognize these themes and enablers because they're obviously guiding what we can do locally and what opportunities can arise at regional level and these opportunities that we can capture locally. Next slide, please. Following that review at regional level and in parallel, we also decided that it was obviously time to review how we can deliver things locally, and that's why a draft Bath and Kinross Economic Action Plan has been developed, and that will cover the 5-year period 2025 to 2030. And the purpose is to capture and lead on regional opportunities, to build a resilient, stronger and green local economy, and also to strengthen partnership around enterprising, customer focus and share resources. It's very important that the plan is aligned and support key strategies, Bath and Kinross Community Plan, Bath and Kinross Council Corporate Plan, but also the place strategies like the local development plan, the mobility strategy, or the local housing strategy. And importantly, it's effectively to promote, to contribute to tackling poverty and promoting inclusive growth. The action plan is really focusing on overcoming obstacles that we have locally, and really to try to ensure that we are achieving meaningful outcome for businesses and residents. It is important to know that the plan doesn't list all the actions delivered by all the individual partners in the partnership, but really focusing on the one which we think will make the biggest impact, or the one which needs collective action. The key challenges that we've identified as part of the process of developing the plan are economic growth, technological change, just transition to net zero, and tackling inequalities. Next slide, please. So talking about the partnership, that plan has not been, although the council is a key actor in the partnership, it has been developed by the Perth and Kinross Economic Partnership. And the partnership is including different partners, the agencies or more local organizations and partnerships. They are displayed there on the screen. And it's a very interesting mix of different representation of direct representation of businesses, like the Federation of Small Businesses, the Perthshire Chamber of Commerce, the Perth and Kinross Business Partnership, or the Perthshire Tourism Partnership, but also of key organizations working with businesses or other people, as Scottish Enterprise, Globis, Richard Garth, etc. You have that online. It's very important to understand that the plan is has been developed by the partnership, and the partnership will own its delivery. Next slide, please. Talking about the challenges, and I know that these challenges are long-term challenges, and they will not be overcome over the period of the plan, which is a 5-year period. However, we think that we can make a good start by focusing on some of the actions to address some of these challenges. What's important to know as well is, and you can see that in more detail in the appendix of the report, which is obviously giving more details on the action plan, is we've started with evidence that we have, that the partnership has to obviously develop an evidence-based plan and action based on how we can effectively, meaningfully deliver outcomes. The first grand challenge is economic growth. We know that our economy experiences and build experiences slow and fragile growth, and that will be for us, our own sector. Some of the sectors that we have are quite exposed to some external events, but we also know that we need to grow our businesses. However, we also know that we have sectoral growth opportunities, the one which have been highlighted in the prospectus, and we have a very strong enterprising base. So, based on that evidence, we need to secure investment and capture growth in the areas linked to the 4 regional opportunities to make our economy more resilient and consolidate economic growth. And this should end by having an outcome of, allowing business to find more opportunities to start up and grow, and people to access better paid jobs and career opportunities. The second challenge is the technological challenge. We know that our economy experiences these changes from automation and digital transformation, and we know that our jobs are some jobs are more exposed or at risk. However, we know also that these type of changes will also bring up growth opportunities. So based on that evidence, we need to secure investment in and develop future skills and the technology to keep our economy competitive and attractive. And what we try to achieve is to really allow business to adapt to or use these changes to grow, and for the people to acquire the relevant skills to access better paid jobs and career opportunities. Next slide, please. Third grand challenge is about the just transition to net zero. We know that based on the evidence, we know that the economy needs to transform to net zero, but some of our sectors are at risk of lagging behind because of the cost, the new norms, and the skill shortages. But we also know that there's growth opportunities, as the one highlighted in prospectus, and there's also opportunities for Perth and Kinross to become a leader in that area. So based on that evidence, we need to secure investment and growth and grow the supply chain in the sectors supporting the net zero transition, such as energy, transport, and circular economy. And we need also to attract, retain, reskill, and upskill people across the sector. And here again is really to try to have meaningful outcome for our business so they can adapt to and use the transition to net zero to grow, and for the people to acquire the right skills and access better paid jobs. And finally, but maybe more importantly, in that action plan, because it's not separate, it has to be integrated, is by developing actions along the three first kind of grand challenges. We really like to tackle inequalities because we know that our economy doesn't offer the same positive opportunities to everybody. We know there's significant earning disparities, and we know that people are experiencing or are at risk of experiencing poverty. But we also know that there are shortages and job opportunities in some sectors. So based on that evidence, we need to secure investment and expand the availability of good sustainability jobs, including pay and other working arrangements to bring people back to work from unemployment, give them for criminal responsibilities. And really the aim is really just to allow people experiencing or at risk of poverty to access the skills and obviously access these job opportunities. Next slide, please. So now we go into much more detail about some of the actions. I will pass on to Steve to continue the presentation.
Okay, thank you, Serge. So in recognition of these challenges, specific actions have been identified to ensure that we're focused and impactful. We have cross-referenced each action against our challenges and also local and regional priorities. The plan sets out how we will measure success and key delivery milestones, including target dates, lead partner and funding. We obviously haven't included all the actions in this presentation, but they're also part of the plan. We just want to highlight some examples to you this morning. So the first slide here summarises some of the key interventions around energy, a key sector for us given the economic opportunities it presents and the investment potential. So the first action there is the Perth Eco Innovation Park, which, as you know, forms part of the Perth West development, comprising of a site which will include low carbon housing, office, innovation and lab space, and a green transport corridor and hub. The council have already invested in this development to support the design phase, but the key action around this is to move into the physical delivery stage, with phase one being the enabling infrastructure. The second point there is around Bin Eco Park, which is a key strategic site to support the circular economy business opportunities. The master plan has been agreed and a number of actions are already underway. We now need to move and work with the operator and partners to promote the circular economy, recycling and renewable opportunities at the site. So the Bin Eco Innovation and Bin Eco Park are two projects which are up and running with clear achievements to date and delivery plans. We also need to, alongside these, develop a programme of investable energy transition projects for the private sector and position Perth and Kinross as a market leader in energy and mobility. So if we can achieve these actions, some of the outcomes that will come from that, to grow the supply chain, support innovation, attract public and private sector investment, and most importantly, create a range of jobs and career opportunities in the clean growth sector. Next slide, please. Thank you. Other key sectors are included on this slide. So tourism has traditionally been one of our key sectors, employing over 8,000 people and contributing 650 million to the local economy. However, there is scope for growth and we're proposing a series of projects and activities. I won't go through these in detail, but two areas include, firstly, area promotion. We've got good appeal at the moment and a strong brand awareness, but more can be done to ensure a coordinated tourism destination plan of activity. Secondly, investment and infrastructure. We need to ensure that we've got the infrastructure in place to enhance the visitor experience and also ensure that tourism has got a positive impact and effect on our communities. The visitor levy is also referenced there, and that's something we're looking to start exploring, but that's obviously a paper for the agenda this morning as well, so I won't go into any detail on that. Alongside tourism, the creative industries are a key local and national priority growth sector. It's also a major strength of Perth and Kinross and has received significant capital investment over the last few years, including the Creative Exchange, Perth Theatre and Concert Hall and the Perth Museum. We do want, however, to see the dial move on this, on the number of businesses and people employed in the sector. So we have been working on a dedicated business support programme delivered in partnership with specialist agencies to encourage startups and growth of existing businesses, and that's currently being drafted at the moment. The Perth City Centre Design and Development Framework was presented to Council back in September and is currently in the final stages of consultation. The public consultation for that closed last week, I think it was, and we've had a really good response, over 600 responses to that. So we're wading our way through that at the moment, and a paper recognising that engagement consultation will come back to council early part of this year. It presents a vision for Perth City Centre and a series of investment zones, building and streetscape improvements to achieve that vision and ensure the economic success of our city centre. Key for us alongside looking at the consultation is to start identifying short, medium and long-term projects that are both deliverable and impactful. The plan is very aspirational, but it's very important to ensure that we've got a modern and successful city centre and attract investment and activity to it. Delivery of these projects will happen as part of that action plan, and as is a key piece of work, obviously members will be kind of kept updated and briefed throughout that process. Next slide, please. Alison, thank you.
Thanks, Stephen. Just quickly run through some of the actions, and these are just some examples of the actions we put under our Tackling Inequalities Challenge. These will support our own Tackling Poverty strategy and the Local Employability Partnership Employability strategy, which already exists. This is very much an enabler. We need to support our communities and individuals in those communities to gain the skills required to gain employment, to gain better employment. It's a real key underpinning one to support some of the business development projects. So one of the first ones highlighted here is around Fair Work. It's a very significant policy of Scottish Government, and we're very supportive here at a local level to support businesses to develop fair work practices. That's not just around living wage, that's around the way we do business, how flexible they are with their employers, the opportunities they produce, and the voice of the workforce. So we're going to be working, this is very much an action for our partners in the Chamber of Commerce and our business partners in terms of Business Gateway, GrowBiz, to support the business sector to adopt more fair work practices. So that one is one that we'll need to kick off this year. There are some specific actions we've highlighted here within the LEP and also within the Anti-Poverty Task Force. Childcare has been raised as a significant issue locally. The lack of childcare and the affordability of childcare, and this is something that we want to tackle across the partnership. So we'll be developing a series of actions around childcare provision and what support we can put in place for the sector and for individuals to train in the sector. Moving through some of the other actions, we know that we have significant challenges to recruit into certain sectors within Perth and Kinross, the health and the care sector in particular, both as a council and in the private sector. So again, we see that as an opportunity, but an area where we need to support the sector to grow its staff and to encourage people into that sector. In terms of some specific cohorts we're looking to support in terms of individuals, obviously we have the wider cohort of the unemployed and those seeking to gain work, but we have a specific focus, and we have for a number of years, about supporting families. We know that to support children out of poverty, we really need to support the whole family. And we within Perth and Kinross have been running a Future for Families programme supported by some additional money from the council a couple of years ago. We've expanded that with some Scottish Government funding, and we're looking at a very much an integrated approach in terms of the support we provide to individuals to get them back into work, and also those that are in work to upskill and get better paid employment opportunities. So we're looking to how we can take that programme further, how we can add to it. And the final example of a kind of skills programme that we're looking to adopt is around sector academies. As I say earlier, we talked about childcare and health, but there are other sectors that we know are struggling to recruit into. Some of those are around rural skills, around transport and logistics, hospitality and construction are another two key areas where we know that local businesses struggle to recruit. So the idea here is to actually create some sector academies where unemployed individuals are supported with some key skills, some work experience, and potentially guaranteed interviews in some of these sectors. We will be looking to try and attract some funding for this. We could attract the Scottish Government money, but we also have access to the City Skills Programme, and they're looking at developing a kind of academy approach that we could tap into to help fund some of these projects. In terms of some of the wider things that the Economic Partnership are hoping to deliver, can we move down to the next slide, please? Thank you. Out of some of the early work we did in developing the plan, there was certainly very much a focus around the value and what we welcome is a very enterprising economy, and not just in a business sense. We also realise that enterprising behaviour is something that we want to encourage from an early age, and that we have a very enterprising area in terms of the number of small and start-up businesses, but also how an entrepreneurial behavioural culture supports us all in terms of a different mindset. So that's certainly something that the partnership are very keen to look at how we can develop that further, and possibly linking in with our colleagues in education and learning. The other key focuses were around customer focus and making sure that all the individuals, all the partners that are delivering to clients, to businesses, have very much a customer focus and have the customer at the heart of the delivery of any of our activities. And also look at how we can better use our collective resource. Between the partners, we have significant numbers of staff, we have significant numbers of cash and other resources available to us, and how can we better collectively use that resource? And that's again a challenge that we will look to taking the plan forward. As part of the partnership, we also plan to use that as a sounding board to allocate any financial resources that we have available. For example, the Shared Prosperity Fund, we can use our partnership to actually better allocate resource in the future. We already do that in a smaller sense with the Local Employability Partnership, which we use to allocate Scottish Government employability funding. We're also looking at developing the partnership staff, so some sort of training programme so that all staff within the different partners are aware of what we all deliver, so that we can better sell our support and our activities to businesses when we're out speaking to them, etc. So that's a kind of one-door approach. And on the back of that, we're hoping to create some improved communication channels, a marketing plan, and just further improve that partnership working element. Thank you. And I'll hand back, I think, next slide, please, and Serge will just outline what the final next steps are.
Yes, thank you very much, Stephen and Alison. So that slide is really, detailing about what we've done and what we are planning to do. So as I said, the draft action plan was co-produced by the Economic Partnership. It has been shared, and we have had inputs, internally and externally, and internally from different teams in the council. The draft plan and consolidated action has been reviewed by the PKC Strategic Leadership Team, and the draft plan is obviously has been also consolidated by the Economic Partnership at the meeting, a recent meeting. And today, we are asking the committee to endorse the plan, and if it's the case, on behalf of the partnership, to go to public consultation over the months of February, March, so we can then finalize the plan and start delivery on the 1st of April of this year. That concludes the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you to Serge, Stephen and Alison for a comprehensive presentation there. I'm sure some colleagues will have questions on the report, and if so, can you please put you in the chat. Okay, so take one at a time at the moment. Councillor Robertson, first of all, thanks.
Thanks, convener. And thanks for the presentation. It was really helpful the way you went through everything. For as long as I can remember, one of the priorities of this council is to tackle the problems with our low wage economy. And I'm pleased to listen to Alison, the comments she was making about that. But I was going to ask, is there evidence that we're actually making progress with that? Because I say it's been a target for us for at least the last, I'm not going to say many years, but let's say 25 years. And because it's been a target, I just wanted to know if there's clear evidence that we're actually making progress. Looking at the other reports about child poverty and things, our figures on that always seem to either stall or get worse. So I welcome our comments on that. And I've got one other question, which I'll maybe let me in later on. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Alison?
Yes, thank you for the question, Councillor Robertson. Yes, it is something that we've been keeping a very clear, keen eye on over a number of years. And yes, I can confirm the gap is closing. The figure is still lower than the Scottish average for people employed in businesses in Perth and Kinross. There's a slight nuance. Individuals who are resident in Perth and Kinross but work out with, their wage levels tend to be higher. But the figure that we're keen to improve is those that are working within Perth and Kinross. And that figure has risen, still below the Scottish average, but the gap has narrowed. I can provide a brief update of the actual detail after the committee. It's something we do monitor through our annual plans, etc. But yes, I can confirm that the position is improving, definitely. There was a bit of a dip during COVID, because we had a lot of very low wage businesses that put a lot of people on furlough, so that impacted our figures for that period. But certainly in the last 2 years, definitely the gap is narrowing.
Thanks, Alison. Councillor Forbes.
Yeah, thanks, Convener. Following on a kind of similar thread from Councillor Robertson's there, the Perth Eco Innovation Park has equally been around for as long as I've been a councillor, and I know we've funded that to some degree. Is there some kind of delay in actually getting this open and running, or perhaps Serge could give us an update of what our latest timeline is? Thanks.
Serge?
Yep, thank you very much, Councillor Forbes, for your question. We don't have any specific delays. We are working towards the design of the enabling infrastructure at the moment, and we are on target with these activities, and we are planning to report to the council next year in February at the budget to effectively a full business case for taking the full project forward. But we're on track with the design and the development activities, agreed as part of the project plan.
Okay, thanks, Serge. If I could just have a quick follow-up. Serge, when you say you're coming back to next year's budget, is your anticipation that you'll be looking for some funding from next year's budget?
So what was agreed at the previous council budget does effectively that we will go back to the council with all the information in terms of the cost for the project, and all the contribution that we expect, to effectively offset some of this cost. So that's why we have to go back to the council to present all of these figures. And at the moment, that's what we have. It's in line with what was agreed by the council and what was Finance Resources Committee agreed in terms of unlocking some money to start the design phase to effectively go back to the council with the full business case for the project.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Okay, Councillor Braun.
Yep, thanks, Convener. Probably following a little bit from Councillor Robertson's question, but obviously the important factor is to get people away from low-paid jobs into well-paid jobs, and obviously that helps tackle inequality and poverty. But my question really is, with the changes to employers' national insurance now, which now many regard as an employer's tax, do we have any concerns that this will put a block on our plans to try and create those jobs? Will they not be there, I suppose is the question. Do you have any concerns?
Thank you, Councillor Braun, for your question. It's difficult to understand what would be the implications of the wage level in Perth and Kinross from the national insurance increase. What we know is obviously these have increased the basic cost for businesses across the board. So some business will be more affected than others, with that, and some business will be more able to cope with that national insurance increase. But how this would translate into creation of jobs and impact on wages is difficult to know at that stage.
Okay, thanks.
Councillor Donaldson.
Convener, thanks. And I take the point made by Councillor Braun about national insurance and in particular the threshold, but my question relates to page 38 of the report and population figures. I know councils are getting a briefing on demographics at the end of April, but these figures do matter, and I may even have a follow-up here, but related. But we're showing over a space of about 12 years an increase in overall population of 3%, but also of the section of the population over 65, that increasing from 4.5% up to 24.7% now, and that's well above the Scottish average. Could I just ask the authors of the report where they see the trends on population growth and on the structure of the population going by 2030? And I know it's 5 years away, but you can reasonably predict with some degree of confidence over 5 years. Thanks.
Okay. I think Alison.
Thank you for the question, Councillor Donaldson. I think it just mirrors our concerns around the growing ageing population and the shrinking workforce. It's been a concern for some time. I don't see that trend changing over the next 5 years. However, what we maybe need to do more of is ensuring that the younger people that are coming through, because we do have younger people coming through, that we try and retain them here in Perth and Kinross. So we do encourage them to, once they maybe go away to university or to college elsewhere, to come back, but we need to create those opportunities for them. So that's more about the longer term plan. I don't think we can actually significantly impact on the figures as they are, but it is a worrying trend around that reducing workforce and that growing older population. There are opportunities to bring some of the older population potentially back into work. We certainly saw during COVID, a lot of people took early retirement during COVID, and we're actually seeing some of those coming back into the workforce. So it's providing those flexible opportunities for people and supporting them maybe in the later life still to be economically active, maybe to do some retraining. And some of our employability initiatives certainly are looking at that. And we've certainly in previous years had quite focused around young people, but we've been realising in some of our discussions around the employability partnership that 45 plus age group and maybe 55 plus age group are an area where we need to do more around that retraining agenda. So thank you for your question.
Thanks, Alison. And yeah, I would just add, Councillor Donaldson, I mean, a point Alison made there, I find it really striking myself that something like 13,000 people who are of working age at the moment are not working, are living in Perth and Kinross, but are working outside Perth and Kinross. That's a significant percentage, and anything that we can do to generate jobs so that people can work closer to home is a very high priority in my view, and I think it would be a win-win if we can achieve it. But when you go, Stuart.
Could I just follow up? I take and I hear entirely what you're saying there, and it's one of the major challenges. I think at times we focus, and understandably, on the cohort of the population over 65, but many can go back to work or indeed volunteer. It's probably a greater issue with those over the age of 85. It's a growing section of the population, but but it's the fact that the kind of 18 to 30 age group, that there's, I think, probably the authors of the report would agree, and Alison would agree, the real problem is, we face a growing shortage of labour and of skills. Yeah.
Thanks. Councillor Duff.
Thanks, Convener. My question is on the Tay-City's prospectus for regional growth, and on page 29 of our pack, it talks about evolving the regional economic partnership, and it goes on to specify a number of challenges there. The first one of which is that there's too little private sector involvement in setting and delivering the regional economic strategy. and as a result, obviously, a lack of alignment with their investment and innovation priorities. It's obviously any economic strategy needs the close involvement of private sector and private sector investment. So it's a bit disappointing to see that, but I wonder what work has been done with the private sector to try and get them more involved with our regional economic strategy. Thank you.
Steve?
Yes. Thanks for the question, Councillor Duff. Just to give one example of that, so you're right, that is recognised. So probably drawn our experience in the consultation as part of the city centre design and development framework. So we have kind of reached out and have been having meetings and consultation with the private sector, because we do recognise as part of that piece of work that we'll have to pitch for public sector investment, but private sector investment will absolutely be needed to deliver that as well. So I think broadly across the board, through the number of partnerships and whatnot that we do have, we are reaching out and engaging with the private sector and making them aware of what our kind of vision and what our plans are. But I suppose on that specific one, since I came into post, that's something I've been working on, and we have very much engaged with them, and there's been some pretty positive feedback on that. So that it's kind of want to provide that specific example of where we've kind of reached out to the private sector.
Okay. Happy with that, John?
Thank you. Yeah, I think, as I say, it's all very well them getting to know what our strategy and our thoughts are in relation to this, but it's important that we know what it is they want to invest in and where they want to innovate, so that we can see how that aligns with our priorities. So there's a need to have that dialogue, and that's the area I think that needs to be strengthened. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. I think Serge wanted to make an additional point.
Yeah, just because I thought your question was about the regional level as well. So it's about what's happening at regional level in terms of private sector involvement. I mean, originally through the partnership, there was a business forum was set up to effectively channel the voice of the private sector into the governance of the regional level. That was very active when the strategy was developed, and it has a bit, the involvement has a bit slowed down, over the years. However, what's important is for each project which are supported through the DCT deal, for instance, or the actions which are effectively identified in prospectus and going forward, I think there's a clear commitment to work with the private sector at action level to effectively making sure that we maximize, optimize, and listen to the private sector in terms of the needs and opportunities. It's sometimes very difficult to engage private sector at a higher level, a partnership level, because, as time is very precious, and they really want to focus on very specifics. So they are really more interested in action-based engagement than overall partnership engagement or more generic engagement at the regional level. But we've been able to do that through the Chamber of Commerce, through other partnership representing businesses at regional level, and we will continue to do that. But I think, as Steve mentioned, what's important for us is really the action-based and focusing on the delivery and how we can work closely with the private sector to do that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Stewart.
Thanks, convener. My question was also about the Taste Cities Region prospectus, but I'll come back with it because I just wanted to follow up on Councillor Duff's question while it was fresh in everybody's mind. I too had a concern about the too little private sector involvement in setting and delivering the regional economic strategy. But actually, I think there's a further issue there, because the Taste Cities region deal is meant to be a regional deal. And even when we're talking about getting the private sector involved, quite often that's the private sector focusing on Perth City or Dundee, and not the larger rural hinterland. And I just wondered how it was something that I had raised when I sat on the TCD's Joint Committee for a bit. How are we engaging the rural private sector as well as the city private sector in being involved in delivering a regional economic strategy?
Alison.
Thank you for the question. When we did have an active business forum, we certainly ensured that there was a good spread of businesses geographically and by sector, Councillor Stewart. That business forum hasn't really worked, and I know that we're actively trying to re-establish one with the support of Scottish Enterprise. They're leading on that. But yes, you're right, we need to ensure that all corners of the geography across the 4 council areas and the types of businesses, small, large, and in different sectors. So we did that initially. We were involved in suggesting businesses, we engaged in that. To be honest, that forum hasn't really worked, and we're looking to re-establish. We're now at a sort of stage within the city region deal. We're at year 5. We're looking to sort of refresh and refocus, and that's certainly one of the key actions that the management group are looking to take forward.
Sorry, did you just quickly, did you say that Scottish Enterprise was looking to sort of re-establish take a lead on re-establishing the business forum?
Them and the chambers, both chambers have an active role in that.
Okay, because again, you know, with Scottish Enterprise, I've had family members work for Scottish Enterprise. It's Scottish Enterprise, as far as I understand it, deals with large enterprises, of which there will be very few in the rural areas, and it's also sort of, you know, based right in the centre of Dundee. I think, you know, if we relied only on Scottish Enterprise to establish the to work on re-establishing the business forum, we would again see that sort of lack of that city centricity rather than the broad coverage.
I think I can reassure you that though that the members, the local authority members within the management group are very keen to ensure that there will be a cross-regional representation. As I say, we established that initially. Unfortunately, that we just it didn't work in the format it was in, and we're looking to re-establish that, and we will ensure that there'll be representation from across.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, something blocking my screen here. Bear with me. Councillor Harvey.
Thank you, convener. It was actually one of your questions, convener, that reminded me about a question I was going to ask. There's a kind of untapped group of people who live here but work for companies outside, and myself included. And I know in some other cities there's been some engagement with that kind of group of people, because that's an area that's a fairly new business to some extent. I'm just wondering if there's been any thoughts about how to engage with that community, or even just find out the kind of numbers of people, because I know myself there's several people in the city as well as in some other rural areas that kind of have embraced flexible working. Has there been any engagement with that? Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Harvey, for your question. We have not a specific action, you know, towards that target group that you just described. However, we've start to set with it our discussion with private sector and some community within the private sector. So this is something we can pursue. We've organized different roundtable discussions with different sectors or sub-sectors. So we could definitely have a roundtable discussion with people, like yourself, willing to share their experiences and the needs and potentially the opportunity they see by what they do in the area. So that's something we can pursue, even if it's not in the action plan as such, but that's something that we can pursue.
Yeah, it wasn't a complaint to be honest with you, Serge, and I understand why it's not, and it's just something that's worth considering going forward. But thanks very much for that.
Thanks for your point. Yeah. Okay, so I don't think there are any more first questions, so we're moving on to second questions now, starting again with Councillor Robertson.
Thank you, Convener. I was wanted to ask about Perth Kinross is now a major powerhouse with regard to energy production, and I was wondering if, as part of this plan, if there's any way we can actually use that advantage to increase the amount of businesses who come to Perth Kinross and take advantage of it. Thank you.
Serge?
Yeah, thank you for your question, Councillor Robertson. Definitively, this is one of the key, strand of the action plan, is really to use the opportunities arising from all the infrastructure and investment in energy transition, particularly the energy and the transmission, storage, and generation of energy. And it's really just it's on two strands. One is obviously the narrative, is effectively to promote Perth Kinross as a leader in that area, and we have the capacity to effectively show what energy transition will mean for an area in terms of the technologies that have been deployed already in some of the transmission, for example, network that we have. And the other end is obviously to try to grow businesses which are obviously linked to that to these areas, or the supply chain linked to this area. I mean, it's quite interesting to see what is the appetite for learning about how effectively an area can transition to net zero, and particularly what challenges and opportunities you have from in terms of energy infrastructure happening in an area. But we are experiencing them now, and there's quite a good experience locally about what's happening, and how it could be done. And there are challenges as well, but this is definitively a core focus of the action plan.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
Thanks, Serge. Councillor Forbes, your second question, please.
Yeah, thanks, Convener. Alison made reference to the issues with organisations like health and social care, the health sector, getting staff. And I think if I heard correctly, she said the couple of things we're doing was setting up a sector academy and some guaranteed interviews. But I wonder if actually the real nuts of this issue, organisations are just simply not paying enough money to attract the staff to work for them. I wondered if Alison or anyone else had any views on that.
There was a bit of distortion to your question there, Angus. Did you pick up? Or?
Kind of misunderstood. I wasn't clear on the
question.
If you could
just go again. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, so, sorry about that. I'm in a holiday cottage in the middle of nowhere. Yeah, the issue about getting staff into health and social care and other areas, I know Alison mentioned a couple of things that they were doing, but I'm wondering if actually the real issue is these organisations are just not paying enough money to attract people to work for them. I wondered what Alison's thoughts were on that.
I think it's a lot. That's part of the issue, but it's much more complex than that. I think we need to encourage people into some of these sectors and show them the clear paths, because it's not all low-level wages, but particularly within the healthcare sector. We've been having discussions with NHS. They have job opportunities across a full range, and they are really just struggling to get the people. Wage levels is part of that, but also just helping to explain what the opportunities are, the fact that you can progress within employment in some of these big organisations and even within smaller ones. So it's quite a complex picture. So it's getting enough people interested in the sector, then getting them interested to maybe do some training, and then trying to hook them in. And yes, you're right, there will always be sort of lower level employment in some of these basic sectors, and we can't get away from that. But it's about encouraging people to maybe get in at a level and show them that there is progression. It's not just health and care. I'm thinking also in tourism. You look at businesses like Gleneagles, huge opportunities within that group, and for people to progress within that business. It's not just about people serving food, etc. So it's a complex issue, but we're looking at it from all angles. I think wage levels is a part of it. Yes, definitely. and that's part of our fair work, and encouraging business to see that actually there are quite a number of advantages to them as a business about if they pay more, people will be retained, they'll be happier, so that there is a balance there about business needs and how things like wage levels impact on a business.
Thank you, Alison.
Just on that one as well.
Yeah, Steve.
Yeah, just to tie into what Alison was saying there. So as you all know, we have a lot of micro and small medium enterprises within our economy. So a key thing that I think we need to do is to increase those opportunities for people. So I think our business support programs that are run through my area need to, and they already are to a degree, tying up with Alison's employability program. So we need to align all these different interventions so those opportunities are there for people as well. So that, just to reassure that that's something that's happening also.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, so we have a first question just coming in from Councillor Massey. So Ian.
Thank you, convener, and thank you to the authors of the report. Contained in it, it says in the draft Perth and Kinross Economic Partnership, I'm pleased to read that the partnership will invite comment from residents. But other than making comment on the draft, members of the public will have no further input on the decisions of the partnership that may affect them. So my question really is, would the partnership be amenable to having maybe 3 to 5 members of the public attend the quarterly meetings for their input into the decision making?
Thank you, Councillor Massey, for your question. The partnership has not discussed that, so we could back the partnership to see how this could be accommodated. Although I think we need to understand the value of not necessarily, obviously, the input from the public is very valuable, but for them to attend the quarterly meeting of the partnership, they may not see that as so valuable in terms of their time. So there may be other ways of engaging them on a more action basis, and that's obviously what the partnership identified when they developed the plan. They wanted to be more customer focused, so it's maybe more about how we effectively keeping them at the center of each action that we have in the action plan, and how we can incentivize that. And there is a specific action to say how we can effectively incentivize customer involvement in the actions. And that could be particularly in the area of tackling inequalities, when we try to reach out to groups which are most difficult to reach, and it's quite difficult to have them, part of the development and the design of the service. And we need to develop some incentives. So it could be, for instance, in terms of transport costs, maybe childcare costs or whatever, to allow them to be still part of that design. But I think it may be more valuable for them to participate in that from an action point of view and things which will benefit them directly, than them participating in the partnership meeting, which will be quite dry, if you want, in terms of that participation as such. But we can obviously, we will look at it to make sure that that is obviously taken into account.
And obviously, I would just add as well, elected members, this committee has have a role in representing residents as well, and to we can all, as members of this committee, assist with that and feed in. So yeah, thank you for that answer, Serge. Councillor Stewart.
Thanks very much, convener. So turning again to the regional perspective, or the perspectives for regional growth. There was a huge list of projects included in the original T-Cities region deal back in 2019. Since then, obviously, we've had COVID and lots of inflation and rises in the cost of living, but also the cost of goods and services. I was wondering, is there an update on the projects that are actually included? How many have been successfully delivered, and whether any have fallen by or are have fallen by the wayside or are anticipated to do so, given the inflationary costs since the deal was instituted?
Alison.
Thanks for the question, Councillor Stewart. And just as a point of record, we will be bringing the most recent annual report to probably this committee in the next couple of months, which will give you a clearer update. There's an annual report produced each year. It comes out usually published in March, so we will fairly shortly be able to bring that to this committee. But in terms of your general, we're at year 5. The Tay City Region partners have been doing a bit of review over the last 12 months, and that continues. We have had good progress in a number of areas. Looking around some of the Perth and Kinross projects at James Hutton, wonderful to get that project over the line and opened. Obviously did have some challenges around not quite all the money in the pot to do what they wanted to do, but they managed to re-engineer the project. Obviously, we've got the Perth Museum delivered and on time and within budget. We have a number of other projects, but Lochary Festival Theatre was actually ahead of schedule and has drawn down all its Tay Cities money. Obviously has some further works to do funded by other sources. There are challenges. A number of the projects at the moment are looking at the pot of money that they have been allocated and saying, well, actually that doesn't meet what we need to deliver. A lot of those projects are looking to re-engineer or to bring in funding from elsewhere. At the moment, all the projects are still on the books, obviously, and are trying to work towards bringing forward the business cases. There has been a bit of a delay. There are a number of projects that do need to push forward in terms of the delivery of their business case and bringing projects on site. So that work is ongoing. We'll probably be able to give you a more up-to-date and a broader picture when we bring the annual report, but happy to do that or provide a briefing for elected members in more detail.
Thank you.
Okay, got 2 further questions. Firstly, Councillor Braun.
Thank you, Convener. Firstly, could I just thank officers for the report and for the information this morning. Apologies, I should have done that on the first question. I'm following on again from Councillor Robertson on energy, and also looking at page 62 of the report, the last item, which is Broxton Low Carbon Hub. The question is, there's no mention there or anywhere I can see about the introduction of hydrogen as a source of energy. This is going to be an important source, I think, in the next coming years. We've seen the paper that Fife are already experimenting with hydrogen being passed to people's houses to cook with as a gas, and I know our boilers that have been installed in new housing can be adapted to hydrogen with a change of the burning pilot burner. So my question is, are we doing anything to encourage the introduction of hydrogen? It's going to be the fuel of the future, and it will be important to the economy of Perth and Kinross and Tay Cities. So I think there was going to be a hub, a source at Perth West, and I thought there was going to be some at Broxton as well. So my question really is, are we looking into this, and are we actually going to push to get some sort of hydrogen storage into Perth and Kinross?
Serge.
Thank you for your question, Councillor Braun. Yes, so you mentioned the Broxton Low Carbon Hub. That's obviously a Tay Cities new project, and it was 3 phases of that project. The first phase has been delivered. That's the EV canopies and charging that you have at Broxton Park and Ride. The second phase is focusing on active travel. The third phase was focusing on hydrogen, effectively to develop a hydrogen refueling station. That was a later part of the project, so it's towards the end of the Tay Cities program. We still have that project here and we've been obviously working with the private sector to see how this can be delivered. But I think in terms of the hydrogen, it's clear that the use of hydrogen in the next future will have to be focused mainly on either export out with Scotland, but that's not necessarily what we will be focusing on in Perth and Kinross, because there's not an area where we are strong on. But the second element is about transport, and it's about to see how hydrogen effectively can support decarbonization of particularly HGVs, because that's really where effectively it could be deployed. But I must say it is a very early stage. However, we have had already private sector investing in hydrogen and production and storage in Perth and Kinross. And one of that site is at Bean Eco Park, because at Bean Eco Park they were able to effectively generate electricity, green electricity, to produce green hydrogen. But it's still at an early stage where we're still pursuing it, and we're still looking at to see how the council, through its own fleet decarbonization program, can be part of that development. But it is still at an early stage, but it's still an area of focus for us.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. And the final question, Councillor Duff.
Thanks very much, Convener. Thanks for the report. And in our economic action plan, we use a number of infographics, and I was drawn to one of them on page 46, which is tackling inequalities. And there's a graphic there that says that 9.3% of our households are in urban adversity. And I was wondering what that meant, and whether there was an equivalent measure of rural adversity. Thank you.
Alison?
Essentially, it means those areas, urban areas which have a high unemployment and high or low income levels. It's just one of these new kind of trendy phrases. I think there is something around rural, and I can quite happily take that away and give you the full picture. It's stuff information we receive from colleagues in corporate, so it's not one that I'm completely au fait with myself, but yes, we can provide you that there are some rural stats, and it's just a measure of unemployment, income. It's a basket of various measures for those in rural areas and urban areas, but it was just something that popped out as a strong stat that we could share with you.
No, that would be fine, Alison. Thanks very much. I think a number of us would be interested in the figures for our own sort of areas that are more rural than urban. Thank you.
Yeah, if that can be circulated to the committee, that would be helpful. Okay, thank you, members, for your questions, and thank you particularly to Serge, Stephen, and Alison for their comprehensive answers to your questions. I hope you'll agree. So I'm now going to move the report. This report provides the committee with information on the Tay Cities prospectus for regional growth. We are asked to endorse the draft Perth and Kinross Economic Action Plan developed by the Perth and Kinross Economic Development Partnership. Firstly, I would like to extend my gratitude to all the organisations and their representatives involved in the partnership for their commitment to developing a resilient, stronger and greener economy, as well as tackling poverty so everyone can truly live life well. The year 2025 is pivotal in many respects. With this 5-year plan, it is time to seize and lead on regional opportunities, bringing together key strategies and action plans to deliver collective actions that will add value and impact while optimising our resources. The Council is ready to play its part and work with our partners locally through the Perth and Kinross Economic Partnership and regionally through the Tay Cities Regional Economic Partnership. As a Council, we are committed to supporting people, businesses and communities to prosper in a local economy that supports our low carbon ambitions and offers opportunities for all. I'm pleased that the planned public consultation will provide opportunities for contributions, helping the partnership to finalise the plan for delivery from 1st April. And I look forward to seeing annual reports thereafter to monitor progress. I'm happy to accept the recommendations within the report and move the paper for approval. And can I ask Councillor Welch to second?
Thank you, Convener. Perth and Kinross has recently been identified as one of the top local authorities in the UK for growth potential amongst its businesses and other sectoral companies. And this is by no means an accident, and it builds on the hard work of both our SME businesses, our thriving tourism sector, and ultimately some of the key businesses involved in transitioning our economy to low carbon. Councillor Robertson talked earlier in one of his questions around the importance of energy. Currently, the UK government's reviewing the electricity market arrangements, REMA, and potentially for Scotland that could be a very positive story. Electricity and low carbon electricity is a foundation of prosperity, and we can look back many years to the establishment of many successful businesses based on the River Tay as a source of hydropower, and again we can really look to the future, hopefully, with electricity and some of the electricity infrastructure that's been invested in Perth and Kinross to deliver enterprise and innovation in that sector too. Perth and Kinross has also been identified as a very important sector for tourism. That employs over 8,000 jobs within Perth and Kinross, and essentially pulls in an income around about 13% the tourism employment is around 13% of the overall employment in Perth and Kinross, and a significant driver of income and GDP. So to summarise, this report or paper very much builds on the work that's being done to really set in place some key actions, and I look forward to what's been developed as we take them forward. Thank you. Second report.
Thank you. Do members have any comments on the report? Councillor Lane.
Thanks, Convener. Yeah, I welcome this report, and it gives a statement of what we're trying to achieve, working with partners, and I think partnerships and collaboration are the way to drive the things forward. As a local authority, I feel that we can provide the conditions for growth by providing infrastructure and working with the private sector to bring investment in towards Perth. Being a rural councillor like Councillor Stewart, I realise that we've got to spread this across the whole of the local authority, but we have to accept that cities are the main drivers of growth, and I think what we need to working with other cities across Scotland, we can achieve more inward investment because we can improve scalability and grow scalability to make it more attractive for inward investment. So I think definitely collaboration and partnership is where we have to go. I think the big opportunity is in the growth in green energy production. I think working with UHI has got an important part to play, along with SSE and SSEN, and along with the BIN group, as they've already been commented. We've got to ensure that these companies now have got a base for training people in these new technologies and make Perth a driving force where people will come to be trained up to work with hydrogen, green energy, welding, etc. is going to be one of the biggest growth sectors, I believe, as we get into AI and everything. So if we can create the conditions for growth in Perth and Kinross, people will come, because as was already mentioned, we were just one of the most attractive places to invest in the UK. We were the most effective, attractive area in the whole of the UK as a local authority for attracting inward investment. So I welcome the paper, and I look forward to us working collaboratively with private industry and with the public sector working together to bring more inward investment into Perth and Kinross, and to provide training for our young people to be at the forefront of the new technologies that are going to be coming forward. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Lane, and we're very fortunate to have Councillor Lane as chair of the Scottish Cities Alliance as well. So Grant will be very well placed to keep his finger on the pulse of what's happening across the country and to ensure that Perth and Kinross's voice will be loudly heard in that forum as well. And so we are really fortunate in that. But if there are no further comments, can we agree the recommendations in the report?
Agreed.
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 Okay, thank you everyone. Okay, I'm going to take a quick comfort break just now. I appreciate that we had a delayed start and so we're somewhat time constrained, but nevertheless I think we can have a 5-minute comfort break at the moment. So the committee is now in recess. Thank you. Okay, thank you everybody. The meeting is now back in session. And we're moving on to item 6 on the agenda today, which is the Perth and Kinross Visitor Levy. And can I ask Stephen MacDonald, the Economic Development Manager, to introduce the report? Steve.
Thank you, Convener. Can I also just introduce Suzanne Kumisky, who's online. Suzanne is our Economic Development Project Officer and our Tourism Lead. This paper explains the Visitor Levy Scotland Act and the powers that it grants to local authorities. We are seeking committee approval to commence early engagement on a potential visitor levy scheme for Perth and Kinross. Tourism is one of our key economic sectors and a recognised growth sector, and as per the previous chat on our economic action plan, it's reflected in our plans at a local, regional and national level. The visitor levy, a percentage rate on overnight stays, has the potential to provide indefinite annual funding, allowing multi-year investment for transformational and impactful projects over the short, medium and long term. Any potential scheme would align with our Perth and Kinross Tourism Strategy and Action Plan, supporting projects and activities to grow the sector under 4 main headings: area promotion, investment and infrastructure, market development and internationalisation, and industry growth and resilience. Consultation with tourism businesses and communities is already underway, and this plan will be brought back to Economy and Infrastructure Committee in May. It is important to recognise that there are also challenges to the levy: income being used by local authorities to offset general budget pressures, currently exempt businesses moving into higher tax thresholds, and the price point at which it risks attracting visitors to our area are all concerns that have been raised. The process, which is quite complicated for implementation, is driven by the guidance and legislation, and we've done our best to explain this within the paper. Step 1 is the early engagement, which will include forecasting potential revenue. We are proposing that this takes place this year, with a drafted levy scheme coming back to Council in December. If agreed, there would then be a 12-week formal consultation before a mandatory 18-month implementation period to allow businesses time to get ready for the scheme. The earliest a scheme could be brought into effect, therefore, would be autumn 2027. We are recommending that committee agree the approach and timeline and instruct the strategic lead, economy development planning, to report back on the results of this engagement and produce a draft scheme to go to Council in December 25 for a decision on whether to proceed with formal consultation or not. Myself and Suzanne are happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much, Stephen, and Suzanne, thank you for joining online. We have a few questions, and we'll take Councillor Kilgallie first with your first question.
Hi, thank you very much. And please, if my maths is off here, but in 5.16, when it's talking about Edinburgh, it estimates Edinburgh bringing in 50 million. But then the percentages and the numbers mentioned below in the split of the use of funds add up to more than that, without even including the administration and contingency costs. And if my maths is off there, please do tell me, but I don't think it is. I was just looking for some clarity on that.
Yeah, just on those figures, they were very much estimated, and as you'll be aware, that the decision of Edinburgh to move ahead with the scheme only happened within the last couple of weeks. So they were kind of, particularly the income one, would probably need to be confirmed. That was headline figures around estimates. So if they're slightly out, that's something that we can look at. But at the time of the report, we didn't have all that information, so that's the reason why they might not totally add up.
And I think how I read that, no, and I might be wrong in this, but as you say, these percentages add up to 100, but presumably it's 100% after the administration costs and other things have been deducted. Although it's not clearly presented as such, but I think that means anyway. Yeah. Okay. Thank you for that question, Councillor Forbes.
Yeah, thanks, Convener. I've got a few more questions, but I'll kick off with this one. If you don't mind, I'll keep my camera off because I am, as I said earlier, hanging on to a very bad internet signal. Talking about administration costs of the scheme, I see that councils are allowed to use some of the money raised for the administration of the scheme, but I understand that the people who are actually collecting the money, i.e. bed and breakfast, hotel, etc., are not allowed to use some of that for their administration costs. Am I reading that correctly? And do we agree that that seems a bit unfair?
Well, Suzanne, maybe ask you to come in this one, but I'll just give you time to think as well. I'm going to give my take on that. We could allocate a percentage of our revenue to businesses to help them with that administration cost, particularly in the early stages of that. So a lot of this, and if you look at the guidance, there's a bit of kind of flex and there's a bit of autonomy for us. So that's something that we could look at. But maybe bring Suzanne in on that one if that's okay.
Suzanne.
Morning. Yes, that is correct. So some of the schemes that are being developed at the moment are paying back to accommodation providers maybe 1.5%. So that, that is something that is been built into some of the schemes, and then the administration costs of the scheme as well are being deducted from the overall levy revenue generated.
Thanks for that. And can I just confirm, is VAT chargeable on top of this levy?
Yes, it is. So the normal breakdown would be that you're booking your accommodation, there's then 20% VAT on the accommodation costs, and then there's a further, let's just say it would be 5%, and that has then got VAT on that as well.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so the next question, Councillor Robertson.
Thank you, Convener. Many people book accommodation through a third party, like one of these accommodation providers, like Cottages for You, and so how does this work? If somebody books a accommodation, does the provider, the agent, pay the fee to the council, or is it the actual owner of the property? That's my question.
So the money would always come from the person booking, so that would be incorporated within that system. So the money's always coming from the visitor.
Yes, but it's collected. It'll be collected like for Airbnb. They would collect it, or one of the cottage providing companies who will act as agents for owners. Would they collect it, or would it actually be the owner's responsibility?
I think, yeah, sorry, I'll come in here. So my understanding, I think if you're referring to OTAs, like online travel agents like Booking.com or Expedia, the individual accommodation provider has to pay the local authority, so they have to self-declare. I think Steve's right; it's a bit of a complex process, but the accommodation providers self-declare the amount of bed units that they've had in, let's just say, a quarter, and then they have to then pay that to a local authority. I think there is quite a lot to be worked through about how that works with, as I say, those online travel agents. And that is the detail that, we would have to get to in this process.
Okay, so just to be clear, if someone has a self-catering cottage and they employ one of these companies like Cottage Booking, the Cottages for You things, or Country Cottages, and they use them as their agent, what happens is they don't take anything to do with this tax. It acts as the person has to themselves pay the tax. The owner of the property pays the tax individually?
That is my understanding, that the owners of the properties, of the accommodation providers, have to pay that, yes.
So they. But the reason I'm asking this question is because if you book a cottage, you pay, what is it, 600, say you pay £600 for a week. Then when you get to the cottage, you've got to then pay the additional fee. Am I right?
So that the 5% or whatever percentage it was would be charged at the time of booking. So when you went on to book your overnight stay, you would see the price.
So that money would go. That money would go to the agent company like Airbnb. So how does the person get the money back from them and the VAT? The owner of the property.
I think at this stage, I think that is detail that we need to work through, and I don't know that I have the detail of that at this point.
I would think that's a major detail you've got to work through, because that could be an absolute nightmare of administration. So I think that's I just can't imagine, especially when I read the papers and it said that, you know, you could get people turning up that refuse to pay it. So I said, okay, we'll leave that where it is. Thank you.
Good question, and I think it's the guidance leaves a lot of this quite open for us to work out locally. So that's something that we will be doing, and that's why we're giving ourselves a bit of time to work through, because it is more complex than it would first appear when you start looking into the detail of it. So, you know, I'd like to think, you know, I suppose going back to this paper, it's about asking for early engagement to start drafting a scheme. So, you know, all this detail would be addressed within that scheme, and I say that's why we're giving ourselves a bit of time to kind of prepare that. And
I think that's the key point, Stephen. There are a lot of details to be worked out here. If we decide to go ahead with it, that's the first thing. But if we do decide to go ahead with it, how it is implemented operationally, and that's why there are these substantial periods between now and any implementation date to iron out any administrative issues such as being right. I mean, it's right to raise the question, but it's it's something that there is a lot of time, potentially 2.5 years, to work on these solutions. Thanks for the question.
Thanks very much.
Okay, Councillor Donaldson.
Thank you, convener. It's early days yet. There will be indeed an immense amount of consultation, and although I think it's worth remembering there's a lot of these schemes apply in many parts of Europe. But what I do want to refer to is point 515, where it states specifically that the funds that might be raised do not go into the general fund. However, the visitor levy generates a revenue income which can be used to finance capital borrowing for relevant capital investment. So on that, I just want to ask, I think, am I right in asking Stephen, Serge, we have to account for that separately, but can we borrow on a similar manner to which we borrow for other capital expenditure? Are there any constraints in terms of our dealings with the Public Works Loan Board or other funding sources?
Yeah, so thank you for the question. So just on the first part of your question, yes, we do have to keep those monies in a separate account, and as part of the early engagement, we are speaking to other council services, including our kind of IT and financing and stuff. So that all that work is kind of happening. In terms of the financing and capital borrowing for relevant capital investment, I think we can interpret that in different ways. How I interpret as part of the guidance is that would be borrowing for projects that benefited the tourism sector to some industries. So you're kind of reinvesting in that. But again, that can be open to interpretation. So that's something that we do have to look at. And again, and apologies if I kind of provide the same answer to some of these questions, but that's the kind of detail that we will all have to work out as we go through this scheme. But that's my understanding from the guidance, and speaking to Visit Scotland in particular, it's borrowing for projects that would enhance and be reinvested within the tourism sector.
Can I just
Okay.
follow up, and then I'm not going to ask another question, but that does mean then, and clearly we've got to account for it separately, so it's transparent what the funds are coming in, how they're being utilised. But Stephen, just to say, let us say we took 45,000 just as an example of the revenue stream and used that for $1 million of capital expenditure, let's say on footways, on pathways and cycleways, to not just improve things for local residents, but to enhance the visitor experience. That type of potential is there going forward. Yeah.
Yeah, that potential's there, yeah.
Right,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Duff.
Thanks, convener. I think the questions so far and the questions to come no doubt will illustrate how complex an issue this particularly is. This, if we introduce it, would be a new tax raising power for the council, and I'm just wondering, in terms of the early engagement process, I think it's very important that the next 10, 11 months between now and the end of the year, that we get this right. Tourism's a big industry for Perth and Kinross, and as you can see from the papers, it brings in a lot of money and supports a lot of jobs, so it's important that we get it right. I'm just wondering, what involvement do you see elected members having during the early engagement stages and the formation of a draft visitor levy scheme?
Thank you for the question. So I suppose, firstly, I suppose to reassure that, we have been speaking about this already. I mean, it's obviously a topic that's been discussed within the tourism industry, particularly our tourism partnership. One of the first things we would do if this paper was approved and taken forward today would be to come up with a kind of full and robust engagement plan. I think that is certainly the message coming through from industry and communities as well, that if this was to be taken forward, there's a range of views out there, but everyone wants their views heard. So there would be a kind of robust engagement and consultation plan, and I would very much envisage elected members being part of that as well. So we determine regular updates and get your views on it. So as we move through this process, that's something that we would definitely want to happen as part of the engagement, because I'm sure you're getting lots of kind of correspondence on it as well. So we need to kind of gather as much kind of views and thoughts on this to come up with a scheme that would be fit for Perth and Kinross.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
No, thanks for that. Yeah. Councillor Stewart.
Thanks. I was wondering, Stephen, I think you referred to the guidance, and obviously there's legislation as well. I was wondering whether whether a potential tourist tax has to be applied to every single stay and accommodation. So if people are making a journey and staying overnight in order to get an early hospital appointment, for example, or staying close to hospital to be near to relatives for visiting purposes, is there any potential to exempt certain classes of visit?
Yeah, there is, and yeah, Steve.
Yes, so yeah, I mean there is scope within the legislation to have exemptions for a whole kind of variety of reasons. So that's something that we'll need to look at, and I think that listened to as part of the early engagement. I suppose we want to take that all into consideration, but managing the scheme will be tricky as well. So from my perspective, I want to get this balance right between having appropriate exemptions, but also making it a manageable scheme as well. So that's certainly something we're doing. But directly answering your question, yes, there is scope to look at those exemptions.
Okay, and would that be something that we would deliberately engage / consult on as a question? I mean.
Yeah, we don't have the engagement plan yet, but I think that's something we definitely want to look at. We've got enough time to hear some of those initial thoughts, concerns, opportunities, whatever it might be. So I think, yeah, we would definitely look at some of those more specifics down the line a little bit.
And just picking up on your point, Colin, as well, I'm aware, Highland are ahead of us in this process, and there has been a fair bit of pushback. Just the issue you mentioned about hospital appointments is an issue that I've already raised with officers, and we can, for example, and I'm not saying we would do this, but we could treat Perth and Kinross council taxpayers as exempt from this, and by saying exempt, they would have to pay it, but they could claim a refund. Is kind of how I understand it would work, but that's the kind of thing that would hopefully address that kind of issue that you've spoken about.
Thank you.
Councillor Lane.
Thanks, convener. So I've met with, it was the last group of people met to talk about this, and amongst other things was the farming community, who had diversified into providing holiday accommodation as well. Diversification is always good for another income stream for them. And the first question they asked was, were Perth and Kinross considering it? And the second thing was that they wanted to be, they were in favour of it, this going forward, but they wanted to be part of the discussion and part of the consultation. So this is what we're doing. We're giving them the chance to be involved in it, because people within the tourism industry can see the benefits of enhancing the offer, which may then increase their business throughput. So my question is, just to reinforce, can we clarify that this is the starting off point, and all the questions that are being asked just now will be valid questions that will be answered in consultation, and it's a white canvas for everybody to be involved in, elected members, members of the public who are involved in the tourism industry and everything. So it's just want that absolute clarity that we're going in with no preconceived ideas of where exemptions will be applied, how much percentage the charge will be, etc. And we will learn from Edinburgh and Highland about the means of collection or anything. So Suzanne, can you just confirm that we're at a very early stage, and all we're asking, or all officers are asking, is for permission to use the next 11 months to gather information before a paper comes forward?
Thank you for the question. Yes, we are at very early stages, and the intention is to go out and exercise with all stakeholders, residents, communities, and all of those in the tourism industry, including sectoral groups, as you've mentioned, such as Scottish Agritourism and any of the trade associations. So yes, very, very early stages.
Thanks.
Can I just add as well, just on one of the points you mentioned, Councillor Lane, about learning from others. So, everyone's kind of got a close eye on what happens in Edinburgh, but, we're also speaking to colleagues across Scotland, and Suzanne represents us on various different national partnerships. But also at a regional level, as part of the Regional Economic Partnership, the visitor levy is high up on our agenda as well. So we are discussing it, regionally and nationally to learn what others are doing. So, any best practice and shared learnings and whatnot. So that's happening as well.
Thanks.
Yes, thank you for that. Now, today's obviously already been a day for apologies, and another one now. Councillor Watt, it was remiss of me, sorry, not to welcome you to your first Economy and Infrastructure Committee. You're very welcome. And can we have your question now?
Thank you, convener. I think Councillor Stewart and Councillor Lang have kind of addressed the points. I did find one anomaly in it that slightly amused me. But if I throw my tent in the back of my car and go to a campsite and camp, taking my bed and all sorts with me, I pay 5%. But if somebody turns up in a motorhome, they're exempt from their 5% levy on it. So that's maybe something that can be considered as part of the consultation going forward.
Indeed. Okay. No, thank you for that observation. Yeah. Councillor Harvey.
Thank you, convener. My question is related to a couple of the points that Councillor Lang and yourself made earlier. It's a very interesting report and very much in favour of it. As I'm pretty sure most of us have travelled quite widely in Europe, and these kind of schemes are relatively common in some countries. I assume we're going to be taking learnings from them as well as ones within Scotland and the wider part of the UK. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's definitely happening at a national level, and that's being fed down to us. But I think as part of our kind of engagement plan, we can probably look at and identify similar profile areas to ourselves, and certainly take some learnings from them. So yeah, it's a good session, and we'll take that on board. Thanks.
Yeah, and I think that will answer a lot of these more technical questions that have been coming up as well. So no, that thank you very much for that.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Braun.
Thanks, convener. Following on for everybody else, and I appreciate that these are early days, as Councillor Lang has said, but obviously we will set our tax rate for ourselves, and obviously each local authority will do the same. So my thoughts are we might have a problem. We become uncompetitive with other local authorities, particularly those that are very close to us. And I note in the accompanying appendix, page 39. Of their report, 113 of ours, it talks about changing the rate, and it says that we can, if we want to increase the rate, which we may want to do if it was too low, there has to be a consultation process which could take up to at least 18 months. But when it comes to decreasing the levy, it doesn't say how long it will take. It talks about consultation, but I'm just wondering how long would we expect it to be if we are uncompetitive and we decide to reduce our tax rate? How long would that actually take? Do we have any idea how long it would take?
Suzanne, I'm not sure if you know how long it will take. I suppose, I think critically for me, it's important we get this right at the outset. So that's certainly something that we'll be working with industry on to kind of gauge what that price point is from their perspective. But also, us again, working with our regional and national partners. I think in an ideal world we'd all be in a kind of similar page to this, but that's not totally within our gift. So we want to avoid that happening. But Suzanne, I don't know if you've got the detail in terms of how long that would take if we had to change the rate, or is that something to look at?
I don't actually have that detail at the moment. No, I think the only thing that I would say is that within the guidance there can be an intervention by sort of Scottish government officials if we are to go above, say, 5%. I know that is something that's built into the guidance. I'm sorry, I don't have the answer to the question about the length of time though on any changes.
And again, that's something that will be built into that. So when we bring the report to council later on this year, but also part of the member briefings as well. So we're kind of noting all these points down, and that'll form part of our engagement. We're working very closely with Visit Scotland on all this stuff as well, because the guidance can be interpretation as well. So we need to determine all of that.
Yeah, thanks for that. It's just a concern that if we set a rate way too low, for example, we'll be uncompetitive for 18 months, and it could be the same the other way around, I presume. But wait to see what comes back. Thank you for that.
It's a valid question. Yeah, thank you. My third apology of the day is to say that it's also Bailey Brock's first meeting of the committee, so welcome, Rona, also. Okay, so moving on to second questions, Councillor Clegally. Noah.
Yes, my question's on 5.18 and the early engagement. There's a mention of forecasting the potential income from a visitor levy, but not a mention of looking at the wider economic impacts, including obviously the effect on jobs, the effect on the long-term sustainability of some of those smaller businesses which may be operating closer to the profitability line. Will that be happening? Because it strikes me as quite concerning if we're purely going to look at this through how much money can it raise for the council and not what's the wider effect on business, which I think should probably be the priority rather than a second thought.
No, I think that's a fair point. That's something we will absolutely look at. So we've obviously got the Muffet Centre, who are an industry leader in this kind of field, working on the potential revenue. But that's definitely something they'll be looking at as well in terms of that economic impact. And I think that will be really important to industry. If we're going to raise revenue through this and reinvest it in the sector, we need to demonstrate that's going to have an impact. So that will form part of the kind of the final report for that.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Forbes, your second question.
Yeah, thanks, convener. I I think my biggest concern about all of this, and it's not the principle of taxing people more, I think my concerns about that will come further down the line. But my biggest concern is, what does early engagement actually mean? And I have a fear that we're going to set officers off on a track to do some kind of early engagement, which isn't really specified. And even the document where the Scottish Government referred to Edinburgh have done, there's very, very little detail in there at all. For example, as Councillor Galley's just said, the wider impact on the economy of the area comes pretty far down the list and hardly gets a mention. So I wonder if, Convener, you would be willing to kind of open this up a bit to involve elected members in maybe an officer member working group to establish what we're going to do next, rather than just nodding this through and letting officers go off down a track that we don't really know what that track is.
Yes, thanks for your question. So, as far as I'm concerned, the early engagement process is so important we get it right. It is so important that we ensure that members of this committee are satisfied with not just who we are speaking to, but what questions we are asking. I don't know if Serge can come in here and add to that.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Fox. And I think what's important is to mention we have the engagement plan, which will obviously be discussed, but we will use obviously committee engagement standards when we develop the plan, and within that there's a very clear path in terms of how we effectively construct the engagement with whatever groups we would like to engage with. And there is specifically element about which groups we are trying to target, which groups are potentially difficult to reach, and so we've got a clear idea of the audience, but also how we want to do that and the type of questions and other questions are formulated and so on, to go down into the more specific activities about how effectively we are delivering it. Is it through surveys, focus groups, working workshops, or whatever? So I think that would be built into the committee engagement plan, and it would be based on recognized committee engagement standards that will allow obviously to have a playing field in terms of starting the engagement. It's particularly important if we have any impact on inequalities group, for instance, or other groups that we think are important to consider or engage.
Can I just
come back on that, please? Sorry.
Yeah, on you go.
Thanks, Convener. Serge, I must apologise if I'm missing something, but is the engagement plan in the documents that we've got in front of us? Because I can't see it.
No, it's not. No, and I mean we didn't obviously want to kind of preempt the decision of the committee. So, but that when I talked about regular member updates previously, that's certainly something we'd want to include in one of the initial updates. Would be kind of that engagement plan for input and consideration. So that's the kind of these key milestones will be shared with members, and you'll be kept fully updated on that.
Sorry, these are milestones that are going off down a path that we don't know what that path is. I've got no idea at this stage who you're talking to. Are you going to talk to the Scottish Bed and Breakfast Association if such a thing exists? That's the kind of detail I was looking for that I can't see, and that's what worries me, that we just say, yeah, go ahead. And I'm not trying to stop this in its tracks at this stage. I'm genuinely want to make sure that what we do it right, but we do it with elected member involvement.
No, I take your comments on board, Angus. I do. Claire Miller wants to come in.
I think, Councillor Forbes, I do think you raise a good point, and as Stephen has said there, within the report it does say regular updates to elected members on progress, and I think what we need is that kind of wider engagement, and I think certainly that had been the intention of the team if it hasn't been explicit within the report. So I think in terms of the engagement plan, what that looks like, the questions that will be asked, the stakeholder groups that we will engage with, and the timescales for that, we can work behind the scenes to figure out the elected member involvement in influencing and shaping and providing feedback to that. So we will take that back as an action.
But for the avoidance of doubt, there will be an opportunity for members of this committee, at the very least, and wider elected members, to feed in to that process. I can give you that assurance.
Okay, I'm reassured by that, convener. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Duff.
Thanks, convener. I think a number of the questions I've had have been answered, but there was one there in paragraph 5.12 in our paper. It talks about discussions at a Tay Cities Regional Economic Partnership level. And I just wondered, you know, if you could confirm what these discussions are in relation to specifically, and whether it's about, you know, a single policy or a single rate across the Tayside area or anything of that nature.
Yeah, I think, I mentioned before, we've kind of discussed it at the Tay Cities Regional Economic Partnership, and one of the kind of first and most tangible things that we're doing is pooling resources to get them off the centre to do that revenue projection for us, because it's not an easy process to get that. It can be quite complex, so we've kind of pooled resources so they'll do that a revenue projection for all the different authorities across the Tay City area. You mentioned percentage rate. That's something that we've discussed. So I think, you know, we are looking where possible to align this. And obviously, you know, tourism doesn't stop at individual local authority borders. It's, you know, people kind of cross over, and that's how people experience tourism. So, you know, in terms of the percentage rate, the types of activity it could be spent on, these are all things that will be considered on a regional basis. But, you know, it's not totally within our gift. You know, different areas might have, you know, different priorities, but where possible, I think if you can get alignment, I think that helps. And I suppose I'm looking at that from a kind of tourism experience point of view.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Lane.
Just to come back to a couple of points, I think Councillor Kigali raised the possible negative effect on some businesses who are maybe just above the waterline. And if we're looking at that, we'll also be looking at the economic benefits of being able to enhance the infrastructure, enhance the tourism offer, that with our budgets declining, that we will possibly not be able to do moving forward, because we want to attract more people. It may increase our business. So there's two sides to where this the economic question, development question on this. So I'd like just to know that that's going to be happening for sure. And also in the engagement, hopefully we'll be having open meetings as well, and inviting, but make sure they're well publicised, and elected members can go along and be part of the open meeting, I'm sure, rather than just speaking to national bodies, because this is a Perth and Kinross thing. And yes, we can listen to what national bodies take, and I don't know, because Angus, if there is such a thing as a Scottish bed and breakfast convention or whatever, or committee, but yes, take it that, but just to give assurance that we'll be having open meetings where people, businesses from within Perth and Kinross come along to, as well as members of the public in that, and to ensure that all elected members are invited to go to these meetings to hear what's been said.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. So I think on the first part of the question on economic impact, yes, that's absolutely something that we'll be doing. I think when we've got a clearer idea, a more definite idea of the types of activity, then we could probably come up with those kind of impact assessments. On the second part of your question, yes, we will certainly programme in open meetings as well. I think, you know, speaking to national bodies and, you know, tourism businesses is obviously critically important, but that's, you know, we want our communities to benefit from tourism as well. So they will absolutely have the opportunity to participate in that, and, you know, again, that'll form part of our engagement plan.
Okay. Thank you for that. Councillor.
Thanks, convener. I was wondering about the refresh of the Perth and Kinross tourism strategy and action plan that's referred to in 5.6 and 5.7, and specifically the Perthshire Tourism Partnership is currently consulting on the strategy and action plan. I just wondered what the interface between that consultation and the engagement plan for a tourist tax is.
Suzanne, do you want to come in on that one?
Yes. Thank you for your question. So the tourism strategy has been refreshed as the last sort of 6 months we've been working with the wider tourism industry on that. So there's been several consultation sessions taking place with those in the industry. At that meeting, or at those meetings, the visitor levy has been touched on. I think it's been developed through the lens of the visitor levy being a potential revenue scheme in the future. So yes, we've had positive engagement so far, and I think that the conversation on the visitor levy has of course come up.
Yeah, just to add that, Councillor Stewart, yeah, I mean it's obviously really important, and these two things kind of go hand in hand. So, you know, as Suzanne says, we've had a tourism strategy for a while now, we've delivered lots of great stuff on it, but we want to uplift that, and that, you know, the levy is one source of potential investment, but there are others as well. But it's really important that, you know, the tourism strategy and action plan aligns with any potential visitor levy, and you know that'll form a lot of the guidance for this.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now we've got a second question for Councillor Watt before we go to Councillor Forbes' third question. Thanks.
I read in the guidance that a percentage of the levy is to go to Visit Scotland. Do we know what rate that has been set at, if it's indeed been set?
Suzanne, do you know the detail on that one?
I'm not aware of any percentage that is to go to Visit Scotland, no.
I should have read in the guidance that there was a percentage or there was a part of the levy to go to Visit Scotland, but I'll email you on that one.
Yeah, I'm not aware of it either, but we'll double check that.
We'll certainly double check that. I'm not aware of that myself in the guidance.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right. Okay. And the final question, Councillor Forbes.
Thanks, convener. Just if I may go back to engagement, I was delighted that Councillor Donaldson said there would be immense consultation, so that gives me some reassurance. I didn't see that in the paper, but he obviously knows that's going to happen. And the full and robust engagement plan, these are the phrases I really like to hear. Will we get to see that plan at some point? Because what it feels to me like is we're about to agree to something that is already planned in the back, but we're not getting to see the plan. And I don't think that's good governance, which is what we're all here for. So I wonder, could we arrange to have that plan sent to us and then come back to the next meeting to just formally agree that we're all happy with the plan?
I mean, yeah, you can. Yeah, we'll absolutely share the engagement plan. I mean, it's not just us working with on this; it's the Perthshire Tourism Partnership as well. So we do have really strong links and networks across the tourism sector within Perth and Kinross. So, you know, Suzanne and I are more than happy to kind of work that up in partnership with the Tourism Partnership and share it with you, because you might have suggestions as well, and that's kind of where we're at the moment. So that would be my proposal for that, would be to share that and as part of the kind of regular briefings.
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely, as I said, Angus, it's absolutely the intention that we are as open and as transparent about all of this as we possibly can be, and again, I can give an assurance that you will see the detail. That's what I would like to happen. But you know, the initial the point of this meeting today is to kickstart that whole process. But I can give an assurance that elected members will be involved every step of the way.
Okay, I appreciate that you've said that this meeting's obviously recorded, so I have no doubt that that's what's going to happen. So I'm happy to leave it there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. If there are no further questions, we'll go to moving the report. So this report provides the committee with information on the powers granted to local authorities through the Visitor Levy Scotland Act 2024. We're proposing that we commence early engagement on a potential visitor levy scheme for Perth and Kinross, recognising the importance of tourism on the local economy and the need for engagement with interested parties. The visitor levy has the potential to provide an opportunity for local authorities to enable a sustainable approach to investment in the visitor economy, providing indefinite annual funding. The funding from a levy could support multi-year phasing of transformational capital or revenue projects, I should say capital and revenue projects, and allows us to leverage in additional funds to develop, support and sustain facilities and services for or used by visitors to our local authority area for leisure or business purposes. It is important, however, that we recognise and reflect all the views of our communities and tourism businesses in the engagement of any proposed scheme. So I'm happy to accept the recommendations within the report and move the paper for approval. And I'd just like to ask Councillor Welsh again to second.
I'm happy to second the report.
Thank you. Do members have any comments on the report? And I see first we have Councillor Robertson.
Thank you, Convener. I think on balance, I'm happy to support this paper going forward. I see, like, tourism, like every other business, is a competitive business, and Perth and Kinross have got to compete with other areas of both Scotland and the greater area to attract people in. And if we don't have funds to invest locally to improve the visitor attractions we have and to make it a more attractive place to come and visit, then I think in the long run we'll lose out. There is a lot of issues that we have to try and overcome to make this new tax as seamless as possible and to support businesses who are going to have to gather this tax for us. But I think the prize at the end of the day is probably worth the effort. Hopefully it will be worth the effort. And I'm encouraged by the fact that there will be extensive consultation to try and iron out many of the issues that myself and my fellow councillors have actually raised. So on that basis, I'm happy to support the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Robertson. I appreciate these comments. Can I just, before I bring in Councillor Duff, can I just, for the record, Councillor Watt has commented online that Visit Scotland have a say in how the levy is spent. They do not receive a percentage. So that's just for the public record. Councillor Duff.
Thanks, Convener. I think this can be seen from the papers. The tourism industry is a massive earner for Perth and Kinross, worth over £640 million to our economy and supporting 8,200 full-time equivalent jobs. So I think it's absolutely vital for the local economy and for local employment that we get this right. I think, make no mistake, introducing a new tax is no small undertaking. A read of the information in our packs today, I'm sure, will have helped members understand how complex such a scheme would be, and that it will not just be an accommodation levy affecting tourists coming to our area from out with Scotland, but it could have a significant impact on our own residents working away from home or in any circumstances where they need to stay away from home in paid accommodation. Then there are things like the rates to be applied, the number of nights, a cap on the costs, whether it applies everywhere in Perth and Kinross or just in some areas, whether we apply the same rate across our area or whether we vary it, what exemptions are we looking to apply and so on. So I think it is, you'll understand it is a complex piece of legislation. We understand the attraction for the council in these straitened times, but it makes it even more important that we get the engagement process right and we take our time to ensure that all views and areas are considered and addressed. As I say, we can't afford to kill off the golden goose, which is our tourism industry, which is already under pressure from the effects of COVID, the additional costs that the short-term let policy has brought in, the increase in employers' national insurance contributions, the inequalities of business rates relief north and south of the border, and also the fact that the levy will contribute to the VAT income on any small non-VAT registered businesses, which could push them over the VAT threshold. That's why I welcome confirmation of the greater involvement of elected members within the whole process going forward from today. I think our inclusion in the early engagement stage, not just through discussions at committees, would be helpful in getting to a point where our survey and our draft scheme will be of the best quality to gain feedback. I think also elected members need to have a complete understanding of the consequences of any future decision, and it's therefore vital that we understand how any such scheme would impact not just on the accommodation providers but on our businesses, restaurants, cafes, visitor attractions, etc. So therefore I also welcome confirmation that an assessment not just of the potential benefits but of the potential risks will be undertaken to inform the process. Thank you, Convener. Can I just conclude by thanking the officers for this report? Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Duff, and I agree with everything you said. I would just reiterate something I said earlier. You mentioned again about the potential impact on Perth and Kinross residents of this potential levy, and just to repeat again that it is within our gift, should councils so choose to do, to create a method of exemption of leak reimbursement of any levy for local taxpayers, just to make that clear. Councillor Lane.
Thanks, Convener. I would just like to say thanks to the officers and yourself for bringing this forward way early in the process and giving the many facets that need to be discussed on whether we move ahead with this, given about over 10 months to discuss it. I think that is a sensible thing to do, and it gives us the biggest chance of getting things right. The more people are involved, elected members, members of the public and everything like that, to give them 10 months before we even go into if we do go into the formal consultation. I think it's a sensible way forward, and I think everybody that's on this committee must be glad that if we're moving forward with this, that we've got that time scale to look at things and make a sensible judgment at the end of it. So thanks to the officers for bringing this forward so early in the day. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Forbes.
Yeah, thanks, Convener. I don't think there'll be any doubt in the room or any surprise that I'm generally against more tax, particularly on smaller businesses. And I always complain that the Scottish Government are happy to suck powers from Westminster but don't devolve them down to us. But in this case they are, so I can't really complain about that. Pleased that you have confirmed that we'll be heavily involved in the consultation process up for the next 10 months. That gives me some reassurance for the concerns that I had, and clearly others have concerns about that as well. Just going to finish off by saying that I'm enjoying a holiday here up in the north of Scotland, staying in a farmer's accommodation. So I was surprised when Councillor Lang said farmers were generally in favour of it, because the man who owns this building is very much against it. He feels that tourism is under attack at the moment, having just gone through the process of the short-term let licensing scheme that Councillor Duff referred to earlier. But grateful for your reassurances that we will be heavily involved in this. And generally I'm not critical of any papers that come forward, because I know there's a lot of work goes into them behind the scenes, but I am slightly surprised and disappointed that in the background there's an engagement plan, but it wasn't part of the papers that we saw today. So hopefully that will change when we get to the next stage of this. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for your comments. And yeah, just to conclude, I and Councillor Welsh and the council leader as well, we are determined to get this right, to do all we can to get this right and to shape any decision, and we've yet to make a decision to do this, but if we do make a decision to do this, that we shape any visitor levy in the way that we want it, to maximise the benefits and minimise any downsides. And I give you, again, a clear assurance, you can hold me to it by all means, that I want elected members to be involved every step of the way. So if we can, if there are no further comments, can we agree the recommendations in the report?
Agreed.
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 Okay, thank you very much. So just before we business to a close tonight, or tonight, even by tonight.
Feels like it.
Yeah, exactly.
This afternoon, there's somebody of our mutual acquaintance who's sitting in a room somewhere in the building listening into this, Mr. David Littlejohn. David, as committee members will know, David Littlejohn will be retiring from Perth and Kinross Council later this month. Today marks his final Economy and Infrastructure Committee meeting, and it is only fitting that we pay tribute to the remarkable work that he has done over the past 14 years. David, a long-serving member of the Royal Town Planning Institute, has spearheaded numerous key initiatives and projects during his tenure. Notable among them are the Perth Museum and the development of Perth Transport Futures, which includes the construction of the soon-to-be open Destiny Bridge and its associated infrastructure. The Cross Tay Link Road project stands out as the biggest infrastructure project ever undertaken by this council. Shepherding such an enormous project to completion would be challenging at any time, but David has also had to contend with the impacts of COVID and spiralling inflation that affected all construction projects. David's influence extends beyond our physical surroundings. He has been pivotal to the Tay Cities deal, heading up the bid for funding, which was successfully signed in 2020. This initiative is creating thousands of jobs across the Tay Cities region, transforming our economies and, in a very real sense, the lives of the people who live here. As the outgoing strategic lead for economy development and planning, David has successfully integrated economy and planning to support the council's priority of developing a robust, resilient and greener economy. This has been notably achieved through the local development plan and by engaging with developers. His innovative placemaking efforts leave a lasting legacy in the nationally recognised Mill Street scheme. David's contributions are many, and he is already actively engaged in voluntary work to conserve heritage assets and support community and social life. What is perhaps not as well known is that David is renowned for his sartorial elegance, it says here, regularly showcasing his renowned tartan trousers. On a personal note, I would like to express my gratitude to David for the support he has provided me during my short time so far as convener. His guidance, expertise and dedication have been invaluable, and I am appreciative of his contributions. Additionally, I would like to thank David for the support he has offered to the committee as a whole, which has been instrumental in our collective success. Today, David, on behalf of the committee, I would like to extend our deepest gratitude to you for your clear explanations, patience and good humour over the years on a range of complex and different issues. I'm confident that all councillors join me in wishing you all the best for the future. We are also pleased to know that you will continue to have an interest in the growth of Perth and Kinross through your new role with the Crannog Centre, which will help you grounded when you're not using your newfound freedom to spend more time in the south of France, a place you visit regularly. So to conclude, best wishes from myself and on behalf of this committee. Oh, there you are. I hope you were still there after all that. You're going to be unmuted. Can you unmute Scott? I think
there's something on the Scott's put in the comments. Can someone unmute my mic?
And Magda's gone back saying.
I think I'm unmuted now.
Yeah, you've changed your name to Kirsty Easton. Move on.
All those horrendous noises in the background. Oh, well, what a day! What a day for my last committee. But thank you very much, convener, for those kind words. I won't take up any more time of the committee, because I think lunch is long overdue. But it has been a bit of a long goodbye, and it's very real for me now. It's 2 weeks tomorrow will be my kind of final working day. But as you alluded to, I'm not saying goodbye to Perth and Kinross forever. I think my role at the Crannog Trust is going to keep me very busy, and a number of other kind of charitable organisations that I'm going to devote more of my time to, as well as spending more time in the south of France. But it's been great to work with you all, and I've always said it's people that I think anyone who leaves an organisation will miss more than anything else. But I would like to think that in some way I have made a contribution to making Perth and Kinross a better place over these past 14 years. I think it's a journey. It's a journey that we've come a long way on. Lots more to do, but I'm certainly very proud of the contribution that I've made and the support of you in helping me make these achievements. So thank you all very much.
Thank you. And I think Councillor Forbes wanted to say a few words.
Yeah, thanks, convener. I won't keep us long, because I'm very conscious that some people have got another meeting to go to just very shortly. I just want to say to David, have a fantastic retirement. It's been a pleasure to work with you. I was very grateful for the advice and support you gave me when I was the convener, and particularly on ward matters such as the impact that the Crosstay Link Road will have on my ward. So I wish you a long, happy retirement, and try not to spend too much time in the south of France, because you'll just make me jealous.
All right. Thank you very much, and thank you everyone for your contributions to today's meeting and for coping with the somewhat challenging change of venue and change of circumstances earlier on. So thanks once again for today, and have a good afternoon. And I hope those of you who are about to join the Finance and Resources Committee have as enjoyable an afternoon as I do. Thanks. Thank you.
Cheerio, everyone.